My name is Sean Thomas, and I'm the author of Be More Today, a 40-day guide to a better version of you. As doctor of physical therapy, I've seen thousands of people do great things. They came to me with ailments, physical ailments, pain, issues, and they got through them, all because they decided in their mind they were going to do it. And I guarantee you, if you just trust the process and be persistent, you too can be the best version of you. Have you ever been out and about, traveling, running, and you're trying to figure out how to hold everything on you? Phone, keys, wallet, lip gloss, lip balm, your gels. I gotta tell you, the best belt you can ever use is by one company, and that company's name is Spy Belt. Spy Belt makes an innovative running belt that solves the pocketless problem. Whatever small personal items, SPI, need to be toted during physical activity, you will hold it in your very discreet, expandable running belt with comfort and ease over any distance. And those are the words taken right from Kim Overton, CEO and founder and inventor of the Spy Belt product. Kim's a great friend of mine. She sponsors the Be More Today show, and we support all things that Kim does. So, if you're looking for the best belt on the market, visit spybelt.com today and check out all their amazing belts. I wear them for all my runs, and I think they are the best. If you go on today and use the code BeMoreToday, you can get 10% off any of their merchandise. So check out spybelt.com, and let's continue to be more today with Spybelt. Run smart, run free, run with Spybelt. Don't let aches and pains hold you back from living your life. At Jag Physical Therapy, our experienced clinicians create a personalized treatment plan that fits each and every patient's needs uniquely. Whether it's recovering from an injury or enhancing your performance, we've got you covered. With over 150 locations throughout New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, there is sure to be a Jag Physical Therapy location near you. Visit jagpt.com and book an appointment today to get back the life you love. That's jagpt.com. jagpt.com.
Welcome to the Be More Today show. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our show today. Now, let's hear it from our host, Dr. Sean Thomas.
What's going on, folks? It's your boy again, Dr. Sean Thomas, back in the building with the Be More Today show. We are back in the building, folks. We are here in the month of April. It feels like spring in certain places of the world. Not right now in New York City, but we're hoping that weather gets better because it is spring, and we know April showers bring May flowers. We want that sunshine right now. But regardless of all those things, happy Easter to all those out there. Happy Passover, happy Eid, all the holidays. Great time of the year for all the holidays. And the Be More Today show is always a great way to be inspired, to go out there and be more alive in 2025. That's been our theme all year. Being more alive, appreciating life for what it is, appreciating the blessing we have to still be here, to do things on this planet. And Be More Today, as you know, is a movement. Now in season 6 of our show, this show has grown to do so many things, inspire so many people, now heard in 91 countries, over 72,000 downloads. Again, thanks to love and support, this show continues to grow. And you already know, BeMoreToday.com has all you need for our more merch. My first book, Be More Today, my new book, Project More. Our Step to Greatness Challenge is continuing now. Over 172 people from around the world doing a step challenge, getting those steps in. We have 8 teams who are out there competing for trophies, and it's been amazing seeing everyone come together and just trying to be more in terms of their health, their wellness, their fitness, spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's been really my pleasure ushering in these people to do this challenge. And again, if you want to be a part of the movement, our next challenge starts actually in July 1st. But for now, those who are in the April challenge, keep doing your thing. I am inspired by you. Let's keep pushing for each other. And I already know our sponsors are great, and you already know our sponsors are great as well. Spy Belt, our sponsor, Jag Physical Therapy, and our monthly patron. Thank you so much for your love and support. It is never goes unnoticed. Our quote for today, folks, is simple as always. To bring about change, you must not be afraid to take the first step. We will fail when we fail to try, by Rosa Parks. Now, folks, April is a great month because so many people come together in communities of faith around the time of April, right? I mentioned Easter and I mentioned Eid and I mentioned Passover, so many holidays. But the thing that really keeps us together is knowing that we all have a common faith. We all believe, for the most part, in a bigger power. And we all are trying to get through this thing called life. And as I went through my Rolodex, and I said Rolodex because I still use that term for many, many things. My Rolodex of people that I know that inspire me to do great things. One name came to mind of someone I wanted to have on the show at this point in time of the season because he really embodies all these things. I think about faith, I think about the importance of family. And one thing that I think about that my wife is all about, and I'm trying to get more into because it's not something I'm always thinking about, but it's something that is important to our family is fashion. And I said, who else, folks, could I have on the show to talk about faith, family, and fashion? None other than the legendary Jaime Kowlessar. Now, folks, if you don't know who Jaime Kowlessar is, he's been on the show a couple of times, actually. He's been amazing in the past on the show. I've known him as a friend and a fellow colleague in some regards over the last couple of years. We've been passing each other various times. But this last time that I saw him this year, I said, Jaime, I got to have you on the show again. I miss having you on the show. And he's doing so many great things now with his wife on various platforms and podcasts. So I wanted to bring him on the show to talk about what he's doing because he is really the connoisseur of these three things. So, folks, without any ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage my boy and the man who embodies faith, fashion, and all the things that really come together when it comes to family as well. Jaime Kowlessar. Jaime, what is going on?
Man, what's going on, Sean? Good to be back. Good to hear and see you, right? Like all the success that you've had. I think maybe I was on the podcast when you were first starting out.
Yes, sir.
And to see the consistency, to see the level of content that you're putting out, man, I am applauding you, celebrating you, and love all of that. But then I also got to say this too, man. Like, I'll send your check in the mail because I don't think I've ever had an introduction like that done before. So I appreciate all the high accolades and things that you mentioned about me. But I'm real happy to be here. I'm glad to be sharing with you and with all of the listeners, right? All of the listeners that check you out from week to week. So this is good.
I mean, I appreciate it. I actually worked really hard on these bios. So it's one of the things that I really like. No, I'm just kidding around. I really like making sure that people feel appreciated. And we always talk about giving people their flowers, while they're still here. And the people I've had on the show have been a variety of colleagues, friends, people I had friends in high school and college, former professors and advisors, and people I've met in my everyday, relationships. But everyone I bring on the show, I really like, I really adore, I really respect. And I think they all have a story that I think needs to be out there to share with others. So having you on the show for the second time, I'm honored to have you on. Yeah, you were on one of the first two seasons that we had of the show. So, to see the progress from then, I'm just really happy to have you on and to be a part of the Be More Today family. So
yeah, thank you, man. You make me want to be more, man. You make me want to be more.
I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that, sir. So listen, so much to talk about. I've been following you and your content on social media. Again, for those who don't know, your name on Instagram is The New Negro. And every time I see that, I get a little inspired because it makes me think, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough in terms of being the new Negro that we need to be in this time? Am I doing enough as a Black man in the various circles that I am in? Am I doing enough in my spiritual walk? I have so many thoughts come to my mind when I see that tag by itself. I just wanted to know, can you explain to the listeners what the new Negro means to you and why you selected that as your tag for Instagram?
Yeah, great question. So, the new Negro came to me from it's a philosopher by the name of Alan Locke. And not many people know about Alan Locke. He's a Black philosopher, but great thinker. And he wrote a piece, or he wrote a few pieces on the new Negro. And I was just inspired by that because he's talking about the renaissance of the Black man and that, Black men are not monolithic, or let me say Black people are not monolithic. We fit into different categories and we are great at whatever we do, whenever we touch things or whenever we're in different spaces. And it just stuck with me. So I actually wanted it to be THE, New Negro, like how he wrote it, but that was taken by somebody. And so I just put the DA. So what the New Negro means to me, it just means that I am writing my own story. I am defining my values and I'm living them out the way that my connection and communion with God would want me to be. So I'm not who I was yesterday. I'm not who I was last week, but I'm really just embodying becoming the best version of myself in every space in all capacities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I resonate with that in many ways. I think that's a mantra that I haven't verbalized that way, but it's definitely something that Be More Today is for me. Just trying to really make sure that whatever I'm doing, 24 hours, 7 days a week, I'm putting that work energy in. And I got to say, Jamie, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard sometimes to keep that consistency because it's easy to do it sometimes or in the moments. But there are many times where I'm like, I'm not trying to be all that. I don't have the energy to continue to do that, especially for those who might not know me and might not have an opportunity to know, how I am when I get tired or when I'm not having the best day, or when I'm not smiling, and then, other things that kind of come into that. So what inspires you to keep that same mentality every single day, to keep going and to keep that same mantra of being this new person, and the more you can be every single day?
Yeah, yeah. I always go back to my why and who, right? And so my why always reminds me of the fact that this is this is why I wake up every morning, right? So let me put the why and the who together. The why is the reason I do what I do, and the who is who I do it for. So my why is the reason why I am bettering myself, the reason why I am investing in myself, the reason why I dress the way I dress, and I take whatever kind of self care I can do is for my who, and my who is God, my who is my wife, my who are my daughters, my family. So and like you said, it is hard. I slack off sometimes too because it's a discipline, but I
Mm-hmm.
always remember that I'm not living for myself. Right. I have people that depend on me. I have daughters that are looking up to their dad. And so that why and that who keeps me motivated, keeps me going, even when I get burnt out. To refuel, recharge, and to keep on going. So those are the two things that, when I want to just laze around, eat chips and ice
Mm-hmm.
cream and watch TV, I have to remember, no, what am I doing? This legacy that I'm leaving, I want to be here as long as I can
Yeah.
for my children and my wife.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear that. Let's talk about a little more about family then. I know that you have kids, wife, and dog, as I'm hearing,
Yeah.
right? So that's a big responsibility. Talk to me about what it's like being father, and how you're balancing all these things in terms of what's happening in the world right now. As you know, there are many things happening in the world that are very, very challenging to explain to our kids. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and all the questions always come up even if you're trying not to show them what's happening on the news, right? There are things that come up on the news, and she's like, "Daddy, what's happening here? And what is this?" And kids talk at school about certain things, and ICE is on the on the tips of everyone's tongues that in my daughter's class, and she's in fourth grade, right? So she's fearful sometimes about people coming to her school. We've had conversation with her about making sure she has a birth certificate and her license, or sorry, and her keys in her wallet or in her bag, along with my number and mommy's number, and making sure she knows those numbers and certain things that you and I, when we were kids, that was not the conversation, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now, in the midst of what's happening at this point in our life's history, conversations like that are being had at the dinner table with our kids and families, and other things that are based on politics and other things. So what's it like for you and your family, dealing with what's happening in the world, and how are you keeping your family structure connected?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question again. It's an everyday challenge and mountain to climb, right? And it's also, like you said, finding that balance of happiness and finding things that bring us joy in the midst of all of the stuff that we hear on TV or on our feeds that bring us sadness and heartache. And so with our daughters, like we do the same thing you do. We have the conversations with them about what's happening in the world, hopefully so that they can get an understanding so that when they are adults, they'll know how to respond or they'll be the adults that want to change the world. I think that's part of like the value system that my wife and we really try to instill in our girls, is to remind them that there is still good in this world, that there's still positive in this world, and that love always overcomes and positivity always overcomes, even though it may seem like it loses, but it always ends up on top. Right. And that what we see, what's happening in the world, we teach them acceptance. We teach them, we teach them about their Black skin, right? And we as young as they are, and we just try to remind them that there is a world that's outside of this, that's not going to be as kind to you as it is to you and I. Mm-hmm. But as long as you remember who you are, as long as you remember the values that your parents instilled in you, the example that we instilled in you, reading the scriptures and what we read about Jesus and how he, loved people and served people. That's what we're really working on. And Sean, it's no, there's no blueprint, right? Like this is new for all of us as parents, right? Like, I don't know what it was like to grow up during Ronald Reagan. Right. My parents are from the West Indies, so I don't know if they knew much about, American politics and stuff, but I feel like this is a moment in our history, in our times, where we can capitalize on it, and when we can confront it, or we can do the opposite and shrink away from it and ignore it. Right. We've chosen the prior to acknowledge it, to confront it, to sit within it, and to understand it. And hopefully our girls are soaking it in. Sometimes they don't look like they are, but
Yeah.
They are getting it.
No, absolutely. Jamie, I saw you a couple years ago, along with Adventures for Social Justice, and doing a lot of work with them. And my wife, who is still my wife at the time, at this present time, I brought her to that conference that was out there, and she was really floored. As a defense attorney, she was just amazed to see Christians coming together and talking about doing work outside of the church. And I'm still talking about family, but I see that we really embody, at least in our household, those same sentiments, right? Really trying to apply what we learn in terms of the forgiveness that God has and the forgiveness that Christ showed to many other people, and using that as practical measures to show that same forgiveness to others in the world. And yeah, my daughter, and she asks all the same questions your daughter's probably asking too, about certain things and why do we have to say sorry, and that's not fair, and turning the other cheek is hard, and all these different things. I'm reminded of myself, and this is maybe something that you experience as well. No matter where I go, Jamie, and this is my own personal issue that I just continue to have. No matter where I go, sir, it can be anywhere. And I don't go to Target because we know why. But if I were to go to Target, whether I have a red shirt on, if I go to Home Depot and I have on whatever shirt they wear at Home Depot, the blue shirts, right? Best Buy.
Orange.
Orange shirts at Home Depot, the blue shirts at Best Buy, right? Whatever the shirts are for all these different places. I don't have to have any of those shirts on. But regardless, without fail, sir, someone will always ask me, hey, do you know what aisle this is in? Do you know where I can find the... We went to a ninja park this past Sunday. My daughter had a birthday. We were in Tokyo. She was happy about having a birthday in Tokyo, but she wanted to have a party with her friends. I said, girl, your party gift was Tokyo. She's like, no, Daddy, I want to have a party with my friends. Said, okay, fine. So we had a little whatever with some of her friends from school. Nothing crazy. But at this ninja park, and I'm Jamie, I had on what I have on right now. I had on like a green sweatsuit. Yeah. Everybody who's there, who is primarily Afro-American, Afro-Latino, had it on black shirts, black bottoms, and without fail, maybe 3 or 4 people. Hey, do you know where I can find we have a reservation for and I'm looking at them and I'm like, sorry, I don't work here. My response is always that. I'm always, I'm never mean with it. I'm never like, oh, what are you talking about? What do I look like? Right. I'm always like, yeah, sorry, I don't work here. And the back pedal is always, oh, it's sorry, because I thought you looked like, and you really appear to be in, and I tune those things out, right? So I'm curious for you, with all these things that continue to happen, having dialogues at home and talking about ways to turn the other cheek, and talking about how the family unit needs to be, and what we should be doing, and how, all these different things, the positivity that comes with that. How do you deal with all the negative things that still overload the senses sometimes and sometimes make you say, yo, I don't want to turn the other cheek today. Like I want to curse you out and be like, what makes you think I do work here?
Yeah.
I want to be a
Yeah.
little mad about what's happening on the news. I want to be a little vocal about what's happening in the streets. Why there's so people being put from immigration places still in New York on, all these different things are just constantly in our systems. And our young people, our babies, right? Your girls and my girl, just constantly trying to process these things. And our dialogue with them is always, well, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But, when they go to sleep, you talk to your wife and say, yo, what?
Yeah.
Like, how do you process those things and continue to be persistent and positive when everything around us sometimes does feel like it is negative?
Yeah, great question again. The microaggressions and the pressure to be a Black person in America and the stuff that we have to deal with from day to day, like these things, like to assume that I can't be a customer, I have to be an employee to show you what to do. I'm not wearing the clothes or anything, but because you automatically associate Black skin and I need to be working here. So there's something I try to take every moment or everything as a teaching moment. So in a teaching moment, not just for myself, not just for my girls, but even for the people that do kind of like these microaggressions towards Black people. And I think sometimes, we need to, I think sometimes we need to get angry, right?
Mm,
I think sometimes we need to vocalize and to say, hey, why do you think that I would work here? And try to almost like, in a stern but kind way to let them know like that was a that was an unconscious bias that you just implicit
mm-hmm.
bias that you just did, right? And I get it. Sometimes it's hard to do that because we have this thing on us that we as Black men that we always have to be what's the word? Not respectful, but we always have to like be keep a certain look because
Yes.
then we don't want the stereotypes of, oh,
Yes.
why are you getting angry for like angry
Yes.
Black man, things like that.
Yes.
But when sometimes when I preach, and I preach that passage about turning the other cheek, I also mentioned that Jesus was not being passive in that teaching. He was actually showing you another way to take the power back into your hands.
Mm.
Because if someone slaps you, if I slap you, I expect you to slap me back. But Jesus is also saying that one of the tactics to overcome an oppressor is not to react the way they want you to react,
Mm.
is to take the power back and don't give them your other cheek. All right, let's to take the power back and say, okay, if you really want to hit me, here's my other cheek. More
Mm.
than likely, they're probably going to sit back and say, why are you offering me the other cheek?
Right.
Jesus said, you don't have to react that way. And so that teaching is really a teaching in how to take the power back into your hands and throw your opponent off. Even the example when Jesus flipped over the tables in the temple, right? He was angry. The Bible says he had a whip in his hand, but he used his anger for the mistreatment of others.
Mm.
And the Bible says that he brought in all of the publicans and sinners to come into the temple because they were selling these sacrifices that they couldn't pay for. Long story short is, I think that we have to always be mindful of our surroundings and also always be mindful of the fact that I can use this as a teaching moment. I can use this as an opportunity to let you know that you just did an implicit bias.
Mm-hmm.
And you unconsciously or consciously automatically assume that because I'm a Black man, that I have to be working here. That you didn't even assume that I may be the manager or I may be the owner of here. You thought that I was this. And there's nothing wrong with working there, but there's something wrong with you just thinking to do that. But then also too, I'll say this, I don't always confront people all the time, but I probably will take that moment to talk to my girls and say, you saw what just happened just now? You saw what they did? That's what you call an implicit bias.
Yeah.
And that's what people will do to you sometimes. So, sometimes I think there's a place to get angry. Like, Jesus sometimes would just walk away. Then his tension boiled up at the end. He was like, oh, nah, forget this. I'm mad. And he flipped them tables over. So, that's right. But I think, it's that pressure of being Black in America. It's that pressure of stereotypes that have been written about us, narratives in the news and the media, that I was sharing this example with someone else. And I don't want to prolong it, but even with the way we raise our kids, right?
Mm,
Like, we go to the store and we're always telling our kids, make sure you sit down, don't touch nothing, you
mm,
know, stand up straight, don't look a certain way. And I'll see our counterparts and their kids are like rolling on
mm,
the floor,
mm-hmm.
yelling and screaming. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But for us, we have this shame on us if our kids are not acting and looking a certain way. And
Yeah,
so, and those are not things that we put on ourselves. Those
yeah,
are just living in America that we deal with.
yeah. I agree with that, and I agree. My my wife is quicker to have the teaching moments than I am with our
Yeah.
daughter.
Wives tend to be, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm more like, oh, another whatever. But
Yeah.
we do talk about it, and I know I don't. I should. I don't take that extra step to ask the question of, well, why'd you ask that? I literally go back into a no, sorry, I don't, and I walk away angry.
Yeah.
And that's something that I have to work on. I have to be a little more. I want to be a little more calmly assertive in that
Mm-hmm.
regard. But I know that, like you said, part of the microaggression, at least on my end, or the response to it is, well, let me not respond. Let me
Yeah.
just continue to smile. I don't want to cause a scene. And I'm
Yeah.
this
Cause
6'1", 6'2" black guy who's gonna now get mad because someone
right,
thinks I
right,
work in Best Buy. Like, what is it worth it to do all
right.
those things?
I
So
get it. I get it. Because
and
racism makes you tired. It makes you
yeah,
tired of fighting. It
right,
wears you down where it's almost like,
right.
I don't feel like doing this. Come on, let's go.
Yeah,
It does. Its strongest tool, its most powerful tool is to make you tired
right.
and to make you give up,
Yeah,
make you not want to vote, make you
yeah,
not want to do anything. That's
yeah.
that's what it does.
Yeah, yeah. The funny flip side of it is so at my job, I'm a physical therapist, as you know, and I run a clinic that's in South Brooklyn. I've been there for the last 12, 13 years. And
Hmm.
if you know me, you've been there, then you know me, right? But there are many
Yeah.
people come in for the first time that don't know that I'm the director there.
Mm.
And people who come to fix things like facilities people, delivery people, who don't know me, right? They never assume. They never assume that I'm the director. It's always somebody else that they go to for a question, or they go to about this, and I laugh because it's just funny to me. I'm looking at the contrast, right? I'll go to one
Yeah.
place and they assume that I definitely work there, and here I am at this place where I'm pretty much there my all my days, like 40 hours a week. I'm there, whatever else. And the people that are asking or are assuming that I don't work there assume I don't work there because of the same thing on the flip side. So
Yeah.
processing those things for me sometimes it's like, yo, what is the point? My wife even said, yo, you have your doctorate. Like, why
Right.
are people thinking you work at Best Buy? Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with that. But just when you have the continuous conversations that come up like that, it's like, yo, at some point in time, it gets to you a little bit.
Yeah.
It makes you just think, like you said, the microaggressions add up. So
Yeah. 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 Don't worry. We both got work to do.
yeah, we got some
We
work
all,
to do. We got some work
yeah.
to do with that, but it's all good. Listen, I want to talk a little bit about faith because, and for those who may not know, you are a pastor, but you're not currently behind the pulpit. Can you talk to us a little bit about um, what you're doing now and what transitioned you from being a full-time pastor to stepping away from the pulpit officially?
Yeah. Ooh, man, you got time.
We got time, Jamie. We got time.
Yeah. So honestly, right now, what I'm doing is really just trying to figure out my next steps and letting God lead. What I've been doing for income, I've been working as a security guard for a hospital chain, health and wellness chain called MedCura. And so that's been rewarding, right? And it's been rewarding in so many ways because now I'm on the other side of the pulpit. I'm in the pew. And now I understand what it means to look for a job. Now I understand what it means to send your resume out and not get a response back. Now I understand what faith looks like when you're not having a consistent check. Now I am living what I've been preaching about walking on water. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been an amazing journey, right? It hasn't been easy, but I am at peace. I'm happy. I feel healthier. I feel more spiritual, connected to God. And I kind of like this world that I'm in right now because I'm getting an understanding of what it's almost like to be a normal person. Because within the Adventist bubble, in some spaces, I'm a celebrity, right? Like people see me, they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" They know me. And I'm outside. I am just an average person, just trying to get on a bus or trying to get on a train when I'm in New York City, and walk. And then it's so funny walking into the job and people are looking at me and they're like, "Hello, Mr. Kowlessar. Good morning, Jamie." Right? It's not like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, Pastor?" Whoa, this that. It's just me being normal. So that's what I've been doing now. Answer your other question. Why did I step away? Stepped away for multiple reasons. One, for my mental health. Um, it was just becoming a toll on me. I was depressed a lot. I was, getting jaded by the system of Adventism and working for it. Saw some things that I didn't agree with and some practices that I just felt that just weren't incoherent with my beliefs and my faith in God. Um, I didn't stand for, conferences not ordaining women. I felt like that was a grave injustice. And all of those things coupled with my diagnosis, and we could talk about that as well with MS, I felt like I needed to take a break or step away from this just for my health and just for my wellness and so that I can walk in the way that God wants me to walk. Because I just felt like I was an employee. I didn't feel like I belonged as well. Like I was just like, and I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I belonged. And then the other thing too was that I didn't want to do this job just for a check. I felt that it would be against my integrity. It would be against what God wants. And I didn't want to just stand in the pulpit to collect the check if my heart wasn't in it. So those are some of the things that led up to me saying, it's time for me to walk away.
How long have you been out of the pulpit officially?
My last day with the conference was January 15th. So now I will say this, I'm still preaching in some churches, but as an official employee of the Seventh-day Adventist Church was January 15th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to just salute you for being honest. I think one of the things that members and even parishioners, elders, and even maybe your coworkers, pastors, uh, look for is transparency. It comes to at least the body of faith. And I'm
Yeah.
not just talking about Seventh-day Adventists, and people who watch the show know that I'm Seventh-day Adventist. I talk about it on various occasions. But I'm just talking about churches or bodies of faith in general, right? No matter what you believe in terms of your Christian walk or what have you. Even other religions, right? We're talking about Hinduism and Buddhism, and there's a certain transparency that you look for when it comes to people being in that space. Because again, we talked about the world and how crazy the world is on the outside. So coming to these
Yeah.
safe spaces, you are assuming that you walk into a space that is friendly, that is, again, like you said, I can belong here, and I feel like I belong here, right? A number of churches are using that hashtags as saying you belong here.
Yeah.
Um, but you're looking for that sense of transparency and walking into a room or to a building, into a community, and feeling that the embrace and the love and the thing that you talked about. But for many of us, those things are lacking.
Yeah.
And I know there are many members in many of our churches, many churches in general, that are looking for what you're saying, right? That transparency, that sense of love, a sense of not being a burden coming into a building. Because again,
Yeah.
what's on the outside of the world is so crazy. So to experience all of that and then come into another space where it seems like it's kind of the same, it's like, whoa, why would I do that? So
Right.
I applaud you, Jamie, because I've heard so many people, and even myself sometimes, when it comes to the ministries that I've been a part of in various churches, in our conference, in our denomination, even otherwise, it does sometimes feel like it's harder than it has to be.
hmm
And I never understand why we make it so difficult.
Yeah.
Because the message, the gospel is simple, but we make it so complicated. And I just wanted to ask you, you said that now that you walked away from that, you're still preaching and you're still speaking, which I am very happy to hear because I think you're a dynamic speaker. And folks, if you haven't heard Jamie speak before, go on YouTube and look him up for one. But for two, you're it's a gift. It's a gift that you have, and I don't think that you need to be officially behind a pulpit as a paid employee to still have that gift and use that gift in God's grace. So I applaud you for that.
Appreciate that.
But I something you said just now kind of sparked a thought that a question I have for you. You said that now you feel at peace, and you said now that you feel like you're in this place doing the work you're doing, you didn't want to do a job just to get a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that's, I mean, so I'm a physical therapist, right? I do physical therapy. I clearly get a paycheck.
Yeah.
I love what I do, right? I have some people that I work with in other areas of PTs across the country who don't feel that way. They literally are just doing it because they had the license to do it, and it is what it is. They're just getting that thing done. There's no joy behind it. They clock in, they clock out. There's no extra to it. It is what it is. And, they get by.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when it comes to pastoring or the church in general, there's sometimes a scale that's being placed on, well, this job requires this, and other jobs don't require that kind of thing, right? Sometimes you can just walk into Best Buy and, whether you're the employee of the month or you're not employee of the month, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But sometimes we as people, we put a lot of pressure on pastors, elders, leaders, that can't be the same thing for this job. But in actuality, it really is the same thing for this job, right? You have people who feel that same way at the pulpit. And the grace that gets, I guess, given to those people in that position is not always the same. So you can speak more to this than I can, clearly, because you've been in that position. What did that feel like? Not being able to really share, I don't want to preach today. Or not really being able to share, I don't want to, I'm not really feeling this, but I know I got to be here. So here I am. Like, what is that like?
Yeah. Man. So it's like, and you're in ministry, right? You do the ministry at Kingsborough. And I think for pastoral ministry and people who are ministry leaders, sometimes there's this guilt that gets thrown upon you if you say no, right? Like if you say, I don't want to do this, or I don't feel like doing this, particularly to as a pastor, if I say, look, I don't feel like preaching, or I don't feel like doing this anymore, there's kind of like this you literally feel like you're in a coliseum of criticism and a narrative that people are going to talk to you about. So it's almost like you always have to show up even when you don't want to show up, right? And you have to be like a certain, almost like a politician in some ways, or a certain character. And it was just burning in me, and just, I just felt like I couldn't say what I wanted to say. I had to keep being something for other people, right? Because you're showing up on behalf of the people. Now, I'll say this. There was some work that I wish I did while I was pastoring that would have probably helped me manage and cope with it. And I should have sought my own therapist. I should have been talking to somebody to help me process these emotions, to help me process these feelings. But I didn't have time to do that, or I didn't make the time to do that. And I think that if I was able to do that, if I was able to find ways to take care of self-care, then maybe I would have been able to stay within this work longer. But I wasn't doing self-care. The only self-care I saw was for me to just step down and to step away. So, and then there's also, and I'll be as transparent as possible, also from the working for the conference, there's no one encouraging pastors to, hey, you guys use your insurance, go see a therapist. Hey, you guys have some insurance, go do some self-care, because you need to unload. You really need to get some of that stuff out, because you remember, you're listening to people's problems. You're doing funerals. You're running to the school. You're giving out so much that you don't have time to pour back into yourself. And even when you take a vacation, folk are still calling you, right? Folk are still like reaching out to you, versus like in another world, in the world outside of church, when you go on vacation, everyone respects that. They say, hey, He's on vacation. Leave him alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think for me, and then also I'll say this too, for me, when I was mentoring the part when I didn't belong, you know that I am a big proponent of social justice and equity and equality. And I just felt that within the church or within the conferences that I've worked for, that message really wasn't a focal point of the church, particularly to Black people. That, you know, I didn't feel like, you know, the conference really wanted to hear social justice stuff, or the churches wanted to hear social justice stuff, and people would complain about hearing social justice stuff. And I would just say, you know, go where you belong, not where you're tolerated. And
Mm.
so all of those different things kind of made me just say, hey, um, I'm tired and I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm. Yeah, that's real talk, Jamie. You know, my wife is clearly in this world a little more than I am because she sees injustices every day.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to immigration, when it comes to incarceration, all these different things, especially in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she did not come from or grow up in a SDA home or a Christian home. She grew up with
Mm-hmm.
a Hindu background, right? So her coming into this body, and I say this on the show a number of times, I want to say it in this context. Whenever she shares what she does, Christians are always like, oh, so you're a criminal defense attorney? Wow, that's hard. How do you do that?
Right.
How do you defend those who've committed crimes? How do you defend bad people? And it's usually like Blake and Saber, like, how do you defend bad people? Like how do you do that? And literally and she's gotten better at this because she has, I guess, heard it so many times, people saying the same things. But she always goes back to the story of Christ.
Yeah.
How Christ literally did these same things and spoke on behalf of those same people when he was here on earth. How the entire gospel and story is about us being forgiven for our sins because he came and died for us. And
Right.
no matter what sin you committed, right, we've all done something that was forgiven because he came and died for us for our sins.
Right.
And she brings it right back to Christianity and to the gospel. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, wow, never thought of it that way. And I'm always curious, wait, what? How have you not ever thought of it that way? Because that's
Right.
exactly what this is supposed to be. So when you say things like, yeah, there are churches, and whether it's our conference or others, that are not talking about social justice, or not talking about what's happening in the real world right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are many churches that are literally just talking about whatever they're talking about, which may be
Yeah.
dated, it may be
Mm-hmm.
fundamental, it may be whatever, which is fine. It's great. But people have real problems, real issues in real time. And I'm always curious why that is not on the table of urgency. The sense of urgency is always so little when people are literally dying on the streets, when people are literally trying to figure out if they're going to get called by ICE tomorrow or the next day. You know, why isn't there a conversation that's being held when, like you said, when it comes to even the treatment of women in our churches? I had
Yeah.
and I'll let you speak in a minute. I had and I can't say his name. Someone came to my job who was a patient, and we got into a long conversation about what females can do on the pulpit. And he showed me all these verses about women not being able to speak and they shouldn't be pastors. And he was so fixated on it. Like he was so mad about it. And I'm listening to him just being like, well, show me the verse. Show me exactly where it says this. And he's taking me, like literally, I'm like treating his knee. He's taking me through like, he's trying to show me, he wrote down text, like he was so adamant about trying to convince me
Yeah.
that, well, this is not women can't do these things. And I said, sir, I appreciate all the texts, but there's nothing that's been shown here that convinces me, that shows me that God is saying that women can't do these things. I hear what
Right.
you're saying, but I just don't see it here. And he got so upset with me, and we got into, it wasn't a debate, but he was just so angry about it that the anger for it just made it seem like, is it really about what's the word saying, or just about what you now are bringing to the table and want to share and believe what we should not do? So
Yeah.
I'm curious, Jamie, with all these things that are happening in terms of what the church is not doing, although it is a place for people to come and be connected and to find solace, there's still some roadblocks that we have in terms of making it practical and transparent. What are your thoughts on, as it is Easter, the Easter month,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're talking about everyone going to church now for this holiday and maybe falling off after. But what are your thoughts on, what we can do better as leaders, whether behind the pulpit or not? Because I still see you as a pastor, no matter where you go. I don't care if you're behind the pulpit or not, right? You're still living the gospel in terms of what you do, even as a security guard. So, what are your thoughts on what we can just do better as Christians during this time?
Man, now that even while I was in it and now that I'm outside of it, there are a few things that we can do. Number one, I really think that Adventists, Black Adventists or Adventists of color, I think we need to craft a new blueprint for how we do church. Because the name Seventh-day Adventist, and I'm not saying change the name, but when you take the name Seventh-day Adventist, we kind of like live according to that name. We go to church on the seventh day and we're waiting for the advent of Jesus Christ. So we're waiting for him to come back. So everything that's happening in this world right now is supposed to happen, or we're not supposed to get focused on that. We need to keep waiting for the second coming, open more churches, baptize more people. Don't get yourself intertwined with social justice. Now, the reason why I say we need to carve our own path within Black Adventism is that if you're European or you're white, you don't have to really worry about injustice. The only thing you have to really worry about is the second coming. If you live in a great neighborhood, if the police are your friends, if your quality of life is great, who cares about injustice? Who cares about who's in the office? My skin and my privilege will protect me. Black Adventists, Adventists of color, we live in a different world. We live in a world where you and I have daughters. They are not seen as little girls. When they reach teenagers, they're seen as grown women. They're liable to be kidnapped. They're liable to they are treated less than human, paid less, right? We've got drug infested communities. We've got crime in our communities. There's a lot more urgency in regards to how we live our lives versus how they live their lives. And why I say that we need to start writing material that specifically speaks to the Black Adventist experience in America or across the world. And I think also too, our churches, the way they're structured, we're not structured in a way that we can address these things. So, we have worship that we do on Saturday morning, and then we'll have Sabbath school, that's church and Bible study, but there's never set up a department for just moral discourse and action. Can we create a department in our church that is fully funded where young adults and people of all age can come together and talk about what's happening in the world? And not just talk about what's happening in the world, talk about how our faith should respond to it and how should we motivate and move to it. We got time for crusades. We got time for revelation seminars. We got time for everything else, but we don't have time to sit down and really grapple with how can we make a difference in our community? How can your wife have a platform to explain that the people that she defends are not criminals, right? Are not bad people, that they are people who, the thing that separates a lot of us from prison is just one choice, right? Or being with someone, talk about the wages that people have to live with. Not only that, talk about the things that your very members are going through right there sitting in the pew, instead of giving them pie in the sky theology and sermons and keep telling them that one day it's going to get better. Because here's the reality. If anybody's been paying attention to the last 8 years or even to this election, it was the church that pushed Donald Trump into the presidency. I was just listening to a podcast, and there's also, we've heard a lot about Project 2025. There's also something called Project Esther, which is an annex to Project 2025, which is the playbook that they're using at Columbia University, Princeton University, and all these to deport all these people, because these are white evangelicals who are using Esther to say that we are here for such a time as this. And so with the big focus that's on the Palestinian community, it's not even being pushed by Jews. It's pushed by white evangelical Christians. And to my point is, while they are having conversations about how to take America back in their churches, we just coming together to sing, shout, jump, and go back home. We need, the Black church is still the one institution that has a lot of dollars that's controlled by Black people. The Black church is the one place where you can gather so many Black people from different education and economical levels all in one room for 2 hours, but yet still we never have a conversation about what each other is doing and how we can help those that are on the margin. So that's my observation. That's kind of like why I kind of had to step out and step away. My hope and some things that I've got coming up is to go on a project. I'm working on this thing called Project Change, to go to different churches and have these conversations to say like, hey, this ain't time for regular church. We in some serious times and we need to start doing things differently. But those are just some of my thoughts regarding the church.
Yeah, I love your thoughts, Jamie. You know, it's funny. We started a little ministry at Kingsborough Temple called KBT Cares. The whole purpose of KBT Cares was to do that same thing. We wanted to really bring in the members of the church who weren't born into the church, but actually chose to come in. They were baptized into the church. They were married into the church, whatever the case would be. And to have conversations about, okay, what brought you here? What's keeping you here? And what are some of the things that you've seen? Because again, I think, like you said, one of the best ways to really look at what's happening well is to do surveys of those who are looking from the outside to see what's going on. When you've been in it for such a long time, everything can seem like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah.
But when you bring people who actually chose to be here, right? They didn't grow up in this thing and they chose, they left family, they did whatever else to be here, right? So, okay, you want to be here for real, no problem. Why? Like, what's keeping you here? What was that catalyst? And we talked about these same things. We talked about immigration. We talked about the Black Lives Matter movement, all these different things, and trying to really see why we can't do these things. And sometimes the conversations, like we talked about, it's tradition versus what's happening now. It's, well, we haven't done that before versus, well, we could do that, but the fear is, what if we do this? And what if we talk to them this way? And what if we interact with this person? And what's that going to mean? And we've gotten into all these different conversations where it's like, yo, the problem is not what's happening on the outside. The problem is us.
Right.
Like, we're the problem. We are the problem. We don't trust that God can make a way through this. We believe that, well, if we do this, it's going to happen. So let's just not even touch it. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And that's going to be the easiest way. And I think people are fed up.
Yeah, people are fed up. We're losing millennials. We're losing Gen Z, young adults, young professionals, because they're fed up. And, to what you were saying before, a big reason, too, is because we're scared. I think a lot of us are scared to do the work. And I think that fear comes because we've been so inclusive. Like when you become an Adventist, man, we have our own language. We have our own little community, and we just stay around each other. Like one of the funniest things I used to always observe was that whenever we have like a crusade, and even that, first of all, that word crusade is like a bad word. We shouldn't even be using it anymore. But whenever we do those evangelistic meetings, you look at who's there.
I never thought about that. Sorry. Yes. Okay.
No. It's cool. We're having a conversation. Whenever we do these meetings, when you look at who's sitting there, it's mostly us. We're not reaching people. We're just reaching each other.
Yeah.
And somebody needs to stand up and say, this is the problem, that we're pumping all this money to just reach us.
Yeah.
Right. And how do we take this money? Because I believe that God gives his children spiritual gifts. They're not to be used in the church. They're to be used out in the world. They're to be used to bless others, like us blessing each other. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. We need that space. Yeah. We also need space to understand how to be out. When you look at Jesus, anybody who reads about Jesus, and I'll debate anybody on this, every time he went to the synagogue and stood up to speak, they wanted to kill him right after. Every time he went, Jesus spent more time outside than he did inside. And I think if we really want to see the power of Jesus manifested, we got to spend less time inside and more time outside.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm all about that, Jamie. And I think that's a hard pull. Because like you said, we're so used to just being inside, but Jesus spent more time outside than inside. I gotta wrap my head around that, because that's what it really comes down to. Listen, I know you talked about mental health and stepping down for family. And I really appreciate that. And you shared with me, but you also just shared a little while ago about your diagnosis of MS. Talk to us a little bit about how that came about and, how you're doing right now with knowing this new information.
Yeah, yeah. So anybody who's listening, in 2019, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I believe that it was stress induced. I believe that there was a lot that I was doing and not taking time to take care of myself. And Since 2019, I've been living with this diagnosis. And last time on our when we spoke, I was telling you about how I changed my diet. I've added more supplements, more to my diet: magnesium, vitamin D, CoQ10, omega threes. You name it. I take like a handful of vitamins every day. I split them, some in the morning, some in the night. Long story short, since I was diagnosed in 2019, I have not been on any medication.
Mm,
I am not taking any steroid. I'm not getting any infusion. I haven't had a flare up since
mm,
2019. I've only had one flare up. I went to two neurologists. One neurologist said I don't have it.
mm,
Um, you know what he describes it as, it was an episodic MS episode. He did say that I do see some scarring on the brain, which might, say why you had that issue. But I do know that in 2019, when every neurologist looked at my um MRIs, they were immediately trying to put me on a steroid. They were like, you need
mm-hmm,
to get an infusion. But my doctor was like, no, we believe, because he does holistic medicine and traditional medicine.
mm-hmm.
And so he believes that the body is creating a way to heal itself.
Yeah.
And that with exercise and with learn how to say no and less stress, you
Mm-hmm.
can reverse this, right? And there have been cases where other people who have been able to reverse it. Now, I'm not saying what I did, everybody else should do. I think you should consult your doctor. You should do what your doctor says. But let me add this component now. There is another neurologist that I went to who said that I still have it, but it's dormant and that it may show itself up. So I'm in the process of getting one more neurologist to give me his third opinion. But I'll say this: I have been living my best life. I've felt healthy. I feel stronger. There's certain things that I don't eat anymore. And I think also, too, I believe that pastoring, the stress that I was under, because I wasn't just your in the pulpit pastor. I was the kind of pastor that was out in the community 5 days a week, after church here, showing up at court, showing up at city council meetings. We had a school, and I was juggling all these different things in my hands while having two little girls that I want, and my wife that I want to be there. So I think that it was from a lot of stress, and not taking care of myself. But I can say, praise be to God that I haven't had to be in a hospital since 2019. I haven't had any issues or problems with mobility, with my vision, and I'm just thanking God every step of the way. But a part of me stepping down from pastoring was because I needed to alleviate myself from stress, because I know that Adventist in the Adventist work, man, it can work you.
Mm,
It can work you like a dog. And by time you are ready to retire, you're gonna die because you've been working so hard transplanting. It's just like a lot of trauma that comes with it, right? You get a phone call. We want you to go pastor in Albuquerque. You gotta pick your kids up and your family and move, right? Yet the salary is not that great either, and it's just I was just like, I deserve it all, right? I'm like Kendrick Lamar.
mm,
I deserve it all, man. I
mm.
deserve better. I can do better, um, and I just wanted to be a person again,
Yeah.
a regular person, not a robot or somebody that
Mm.
works for a machine.
Oh man. Well, two things. One, I'm grateful that you had a clean bill of health, even with the diagnosis, and I'm grateful that God is continuing to bless you and keep you safe and healthy in that regard.
Mhm.
Um, Second thing is, I really applaud you for taking your family and yourself out of the equation and saying, you know what, we have to do this for us. Um,
Mhm.
I guess putting your family in the equation, right, and saying we have to do this for us, and we're out. And
Yeah.
I think that that's something that, whether you're in ministry or not, that's something that's hard to do. because
Mm-hmm.
everything around us is like, yeah, you have to do this, and this is the deadline, and this is the job description, and we do all these different things to fit what society thinks we should be doing, especially
Yeah.
in rooms like this or places like this where pastoring is so, like you said, multi-tiered in terms of the stress that comes with it. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't be the only one, James. There's no way you're the only person who's experiencing these things.
Right.
And the
Oh yeah.
pastors who are keeping silent, right? Who are just grunting through it or just silently just getting through it. I worry for them. I wonder how they're doing. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder, what coping mechanism, what mental health options or strategies they're using on a regular basis to deal with, like you said, the phone calls and the various things that are happening and the various movements that continue to go by. I wonder. And, we as members, we pray for our pastors. Everyone prays, oh, we pray for the pastor, we pray for these things. But no one really knows what that life is like except for you
Yeah.
and others pastors who are listening or being a part of that same life. And I've spoken to many pastors who've shared what you shared, maybe not on this platform, but they shared that, yo, this is a tough gig.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even pastors in other denominations have
Yeah.
shared that, this is a tough life that we live. It is not for the glory and it's really for the glory of him, not so
Yeah.
much of us. So I just want to say I really applaud you, Jamie, for taking a stand for you and for your family and still being that light where you are now in various
Mm-hmm.
capacities. I'm actually kind of really excited about what's going to be next in store for you because I see you being able to do more in this regard than other than I look at people like E.T., Eric Thomas, and others who literally are doing the same thing behind other pulpits, right?
Yeah.
You can say it's a pulpit because it's not, but it is. It's the same stage, the same people, and they're actually out there, maybe even engaging more people.
Yeah.
The span is wider because they're
Mm-hmm.
not within the four walls of the constraints that sometimes can come with our conferences and the red tapes and the traditions and all these different things. So I believe, Jamie, what people like you and others who I've seen step away into other areas or other arenas are being pulled to do more work, greater
Yeah.
work, bigger
Yeah.
work. And that's kind of why I want to have you on the show today because I'm excited. Your journey and your story is a big one that I think can inspire others to do the same, to take a stand and say, you know what? Let's really finish the gospel. Let's really
Yeah.
finish the work. And what does that really look like? It can't look like what we've been doing because we're still here, right? So it needs to
Right.
be something that's different. Because if it was just this, he'd be here by now. But
Right.
there has to be something different that we have to do, especially like you said, in times like these,
Yeah.
where things are just so they're so crazy.
It's so crazy. And they're so blatant, right? Like, I just saw a flyer. I think the guy's name is Jeremy Kirk. I don't know his name, but he's definitely a right-wing conservative. But there's this movement called MAHA, MAHA, which is called Make America Healthy Again. And obviously, and so Jeremy Kirk, I think that's his name. You can look it up, but he's like a big conservative, I want to say activist, but very big in helping organize college campuses to vote for Trump, young people to vote for Trump. He's having a discussion, and Danny Shelton is on there. A few other Seventh-day Adventists are on there. So, and if those of you that don't know, and if you're Seventh-day Adventist, I'll explain. Danny Shelton leads one of our networks, 3ABN, where a lot of us watch. A lot of us grew up watching that network, but he's a MAGA. He supports Donald Trump. And we're seeing right now, this quote unquote idea of separation of church and state is getting blurred now because they're aligning themselves with this ideology, this racist agenda that the president and his team has. And they're trying to use this to make America healthy again. So, there's no more like separation anymore. And I'm just saying that to say that we really need to wake up, particularly us as people of the civil rights movement, as children of those that have fought for freedom and fought for right, that we got to make sure that we preserve our democracy. We got to make sure that we're talking and that we're communicating and we're doing the self-care, right? Exercising, because that's important. Therapy, because that's important. And really using the time on Sabbath mornings and during the week to when we talk to our people to emphasize how important it is to do these things because it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And we got to hold fast because I need you to be here. I need us to be here because we're going to need each other.
Yeah.
These days that are coming ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about family, talked about faith and fashion. Sir, I
Oh,
know that this is probably the thing you're most excited about. I've
yes.
been watching most of your reels and most of your videos, and I gotta say, from head to toe, you've been looking sharp, bro.
Thank you.
My father worked and has worked in retail for a number of years. I mean, he's a teacher, but a social worker. But for most of his adult life, he worked in various retails from G Fox
Mm,
to other places where he was one of the managers there. And always, if you ever seen my dad, if people who know my dad, he's always dressed to the nines, whether it's a
mhm.
Sunday morning at breakfast or, for a regular party, he's dressed to the T's.
Come on.
And I think that one of the things that I like about your fashion passion is that it's genuine and you take it
Mm.
very seriously. So I was just curious, sir, where this came from and how you apply this now to your regular life because you're not in a pulpit like that anymore, right?
Yeah.
You're not in a pulpit anymore. You're doing security, but fashion still I know is a part of your everyday in some capacity. So
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
to us about
Yeah.
that.
Oh man, yeah. It's always gonna be a part of me. So how did I start? So like you, my dad was my inspiration behind dressing and always looking a certain way. My dad was always buying suits. Even to this day, I went to go visit him. He still lives in Far Rockaway, Queens. So when I'm in New York, I go see him. And I'm probably, I kid you not, maybe like the last time I was in New York, which was probably the ending of last year, he was showing me some new suits that he bought and his shirts and ties and his shoes. And so as a boy, I grew up seeing that. And I wanted to mirror that. And then also, too, growing up in Brooklyn, I don't think people outside of Brooklyn understand going to high school, going to a public school in Brooklyn, your clothes was almost like what made you or broke you, right? You just make it or break it with your clothes. And I also remind people that if you grew up in Brooklyn in the 90s, there was a gang called Low Lives. And we had a gang that only wore polo. Like, that's
Mm.
crazy, right? Like, they were exactly, I see your hoodie, right? And so, most Brooklyn people are in love with Ralph Lauren because of the influence of these guys. Like, what gang have you ever heard that was like dressed in Ralph Lauren, right? Like, that
Right.
just doesn't make any sense. And so I've taken that throughout my whole life. I used to buy GQ magazines religiously every month, and I would just try to mimic what they were wearing. I couldn't afford what they were wearing, but I'll try to go find it in
Mm.
some stores. It's when Century 21 was Century 21.
Hmm.
When you could find stuff in there, and it's always been my place of solace, fashion and clothes, and I just find happiness in it. And so that's where the influence started, and that's where I just grew more to where I'm a clothes nerd. And if anybody knows, I think if there's anybody that's a clothes nerd that like I am, that's Pastor Wesley Knight. He and I, we can nerd out and talk about clothes and threading and stitching and all that stuff that we forget other people are in the room. So it's just like it's that kind of stuff. But but yeah, so I've always just appreciated just well tailored, well dressed, and I taken this motto. I don't know, I read it somewhere, but I say, oh, dress how you want to be addressed.
Hmm.
And so I just put my clothes together, and then I also do it too because I like my daughters to see me looking a certain way, and hope that when they, you know, get boyfriends or when they start dating, that they would look for somebody who's, you know, that they would look for somebody who at least carries themselves in a certain way
Hmm.
as their father. But they'll make their own decisions. I'll have my own critiques or whatever that nature. But you talking about security guards, so it is a challenge because I'm like I don't have like security guard clothes, right? So most of my clothes is still my nice, well cut jeans and my sneakers and stuff like that. So I'm sure because I'm new at this position, I'm sure people are looking at me like, where he think he going? Like, why is he dressed like?
Right, right.
But but I have a confidence. I don't really care. I
Mm,
just always like to like the way I look
yeah,
whenever I walk out the house.
yeah. I think that's dope. And now I got to figure out who your dad is because I grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens. So
Really,
I don't know if our dads know each other. Maybe they just been on this fashion trip together. Who knows? It's very possible.
maybe he
But
lives out there. He lives not too far from Beach 25th Street. When you get off
okay.
the A train, and his
Yeah.
house is not too far from there.
Yeah, yeah. We used to live on Bayswater Avenue. So
Nice.
it's very possible. I mean, he went to Jackson High School. I don't know where your dad went to high school, but
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, well, my dad didn't go. He's a immigrant,
okay.
migrant. So he's
All
from
right, cool,
Guyana.
cool.
So he didn't go
Got
to
you.
school here.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
But my sister went to Far Rockaway High.
Oh, there you go. All right,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Yeah. But listen, I appreciate all that, Jamie. And again, I think you're great. And I just wanted you to share as we close up now. Just, I know you and your wife had your own platform. You
Hmm.
guys talk about a lot of these things and even more. Before we close out on this show, just talk to listeners about the show you and your wife do together and how powerful that's been for you guys collectively,
Yeah.
just sharing on that platform.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Sean. So for those that are listening, my wife and I, Carlene, our YouTube channel is Carlene plus Jamie, Jaime. And that's just our opportunity to share our story. We've been married for 2016, going on 17 years in May. Wow, next month. And we're just kind of like sharing what we've been through, right? Like our relationship. And like the last few episodes that we've been doing is Black love beyond the algorithms, beyond the hashtags, to kind of show what love is really like. Because you could get caught up in the Instagram posts, the scripted pictures, and all that stuff. But we're really trying to show what marriage is like, real life, real time,
Hmm.
raising daughters in this world, kind of like the questions that you asked. And so we just do that every Friday night at 8 p.m. Sometimes we're live, sometimes we're pre-recorded, but it's really just an opportunity for us to pour into the next generation or pour into couples that may be going through what we've been through, whether young or old, and sharing our story in our life. And hopefully that inspires someone, some couple to stay together, to work it out. And maybe sometimes some couples may say, you know what, maybe we need to say deuces, right? But
Hmm.
just giving our advice. We're not therapists, we're not licensed. We're just two people with a story um that we want to share with the world.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate that. And you said it's on YouTube. So where can people find you guys officially on the YouTube?
Yeah, if you just type in Carlene plus Jamie, so that's CarlenePlusJaime, and you put that in, it'll pop right up. That's also our Instagram and TikTok handle as well. So you will find it there. We would love it if you can subscribe, repost, comment, send us an email, tell us what you want us to talk about. Well, if we could do it, we'll hit it and we'll do the best that we can.
Awesome. Awesome. Jamie, I really appreciate it. You've made this show one for the books as always for this Easter slash Eid slash Passover season.
Yeah.
I said it to myself when I saw you, I gotta have your wife on the show too. I know she has a lot to share
Oh yeah.
in her own regard.
Oh
So
yeah.
put a little plug in for me with her if you don't
I
mind.
I
If I
got
can
you.
if I can get her on the show this year, that'd be great to have you guys together, but separately, but then maybe even together later, talk more about the show you guys are doing as the show
Yeah.
continues to grow this year, and we'll
Hmm.
see what's going on. But I really want to just say I salute you. I appreciate you. You're doing great stuff, just being
Oh,
transparent. Hey doggy,
yep.
I aim
See,
to be as transparent as you are in this life. So
yeah, man.
I
Thank you,
salute you.
Sean. Man, thank you, Sean. And I'm celebrating you, man. You are a testament to what consistency can do. And when you started doing this, and even before when we met, right? Like all those years ago, right? Who would have thought? Did we meet in was it Rochester, New York?
Yeah, yeah, upstate. Yeah, yeah.
Upstate,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Can't believe that. That must have been maybe like at least 10 to 12 or 13 years
Yep.
ago.
Absolutely.
And to see how you are doing what you're doing, using your platform to help other people, to inspire people, man, I celebrate it. I applaud it. Your beautiful family, your wife and your daughter. and just keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for sharing space with me and giving me this opportunity to ramble on and talk about different stuff, man.
No problem, sir. It's been great. And I will still call you Pastor no
Oh
matter
yeah,
where you are,
please,
because that's what it
please,
is.
I'll receive it.
That's what it is. So, Pastor Jamie, thank you so much. And for those who've been listening, we appreciate you as well. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, let's all try to be more alive in 2025. Have a good week, people. Peace.